Hello everyone, it's Lucky. Nice to meet you all. So I recently just got into an argument with a special needs person, a special needs teacher. I am originally a baker before I went to inventory management. Well, I was still in inventory management as a baker. We work with machines called retards, and so she's like, never use the word retard, never use the word retard, and I'm like, well, how about bakers, where the art of baking is a lot older than when the terminology was invented. Again, the word retard, and I can also send document proof of what the word retard means in baking. It just frustrates me that people want to censor a very old style way of fermentation. Again, okay, how do you make croissants? How do you make filled pastries? How do you make donuts, like actually good donuts? If you can't say go retard it, what do you want me to say? Hey, put in proof box? Or like, there is no other real word in baking to call that fermentation process, because then you have to be like, oh, put plastic wrap over it. Literally, when you say go retard something, it tells the person, okay, I have to plastic wrap in oil. I first have to prep the bowl, then oil the pig, which is the way of saying like to oil the bread, and then after you oil the bread, you put plastic wrap over it, and then you put it in the refrigerator. That's normal retarding process, or retarting. Retard. Not retard, but retard. Retard is with, like, cheese pastries and whatnot, but you don't put plastic wrap over them. But again, people get so hyper offensive about it. Literally, I spent, like, an hour arguing with a special needs teacher about how you can't censor the word, because if we try to censor the word, here's the problem. If you tell me to retard bread, I know exactly what you mean. But if you tell me the exact process of how to do that process, everyone's just like, you can say retard. It's a baking method. Again, in the culinary field, if you're a baker, if you're afraid to say retard, you are not going to get the job. That's the problem, is that it's a very common practice in the baking field. Again, and I sent her multiple documents, and I can speak by sending her multiple documents, but she still says, you have to change terminology, okay? This has been, baking is a lot longer than any English language. Again, this is a very old French word. It literally means to have a long proof. For me, retard's not an offensive word, because I'm a baker. So whenever I argue with people, hey, what about bakers? We don't say it as an offensive term. We're saying it because, for us, when you tell us retard, we know, okay, it's a baking process or a machine. Because there's actually a machine for croissants called retard, which I'm not going to my old workplaces and be like, hey, can I record that our retard, show what a retard looks like? But it's actually a pretty cool machine. You get to like set it up the day beforehand. You push all the cool buttons, and then they go doop 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 doop, and then you push the button, and then it does everything. It's so cool to watch. Those machines are so high tech. It's so cool. And again, I'm like, if someone calls me retard, I don't find it offensive anymore. For me, I'm like, okay, cool, you're calling me like a cool machine, or you're calling me better bread. For me, I find retard as no longer an offensive word, because, again, I am a baker. So, of course, if someone tries to offend me, I'm like, fine, whatever. You build very thick skin in the culinary field. Again, I will always argue. What about bakers? How are we going to change the word? Literally, it is a baking terminology. How can we change the word retard if it's literally ingrained into your associate's degree, You have to literally write papers defending the baking terminology, and how, if we can, change the terminology so we don't get canceled. Again, reason why I left my other job was because I was getting a lot more famous, a lot more traction, and again, I don't want people to be like, oh, he's saying retard whenever he talks about baking, but he never actually says it in a offensive term. Again, I'm using it as a baking terminology and not as a offensive terminology. Again, it was originally a baking terminology before it became a offensive word. And it's just frustrating because no matter how much I argue, how much evidence I can show to people, people will still say, you need to find a different word. And I'm like, okay, how can I find a different word for literally a word that literally tells me how you want your bread? Tell me how you do it. Tell me how you want me to do it so you can say one word that all bakers can agree on to actually do the process that Retard has been doing for over centuries now. Teachers have been teaching bakers, even 2022 bakers. We all know if we're told to retard something, we know exactly what to do. So again, you need to make a new terminology for us so we don't offend you. But if you can't make a terminology so we can be like, okay, this is what the new process is called. Okay, make a terminology word so we know what to do. That'll be great. But here's the problem. It's been ingrained for centuries of that retard being used as a baking terminology, where it's just like, okay, cool. That means the millennials and Gen Z will know, but what about the Gen Xers? You know, they're a little bit harder to move. How about the next generation and the other generation? Again, we still have people working in the work field where, yes, eventually that it will fade out, but the problem is it won't fade out because other teachers will keep on teaching the baking method. And I hate defending the word because I am special needs. At the same time, I have to defend the baking terminology word of retard. I'm not defending the word retard as in like the offensive word. I'm defending retard as in the baking terminology, the machine. Again, if you have ever seen a retard machine, it is so cool, so high tech. It's really, really cool. You like push buttons and you say what's in there and everything. It's way too high tech, guys. Like literally, it would literally like make your head just go. Like it is super duper high tech. I wish I could show you guys how high tech it is, but I wasn't thinking when I worked in. I think I might have pictures. If I do have pictures, I'll definitely put them in the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I just had to explain what retard means in baking. So whenever I start defending it on Twitter, or if you see me defending on Facebook, you guys understand that I'm coming from a different world where retard is not used as an offensive word. We use it as a baking terminology, so we understand what to do as a baker.